My name is Savannah Turner. I'm 22 years old, and I grew up in a quiet little suburban town where everyone knows everyone and nothing ever really changes. For as long as I can remember, I've had one dream that kept me pushing forward: to become an environmental lawyer and fight for causes that matter. I've spent years building toward this moment: sleepless nights studying, internships that didn't pay a cent, and countless sacrifices. But none of that prepared me for the moment my entire world tilted sideways. I had just been accepted into my dream graduate program, the kind of school I'd been planning for since high school. My father had always promised me that money would never be an issue. He'd been saving for me since I was 10, constantly talking about the college fund he was building for my future. It wasn't just a fund, it was a symbol of his love and belief in me. So when I logged into the account to pay my non-refundable deposit, I expected to see six figures staring back at me. Instead, there was $4.83, that was it. $4.83. The cursor blinked at me like it was mocking me, and for a full minute, I just sat there staring, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely breathe. I thought there had to be a mistake. Maybe I typed in the wrong password or accessed the wrong account. I refreshed the page again and again, my hands shaking so badly I could barely click the button. But the number never changed. $4.83. If you've ever trusted someone completely and felt that trust shatter in an instant, you'll understand why I'm sharing this story. And if you're here reading it, thank you. I'd love to hear your thoughts along the way, so feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It means a lot to me as I open up about the hardest chapter of my life. Growing up, my dad made the college fund sound almost magical. He used to say things like, "Every dollar I save is a brick in the foundation of your future, kiddo." I can still picture the night he first told me about it. I was 10, sitting at our kitchen table with a bowl of melting ice cream in front of me, while he explained how he was tucking money away so I'd never have to worry about tuition. It was the first time I remember feeling safe about my future, like he was this superhero dad building a better life for me. Over the years, he turned it into a family tradition. On my 16th birthday, he handed me a printed account update like it was a trophy. I remember him grinning as he said, "We've hit 50,000, Savannah. You're set for whatever college you want." He even toasted me with sparkling cider at my high school graduation, promising, "You focus on changing the world, and I'll focus on making sure you never have to worry about money." Those words replayed in my head now, bitter and hollow. I sat frozen at my desk, staring at the numbers on the screen. $4.83. I couldn't make sense of it. Years of promises, years of reassurance, and it was all gone. The worst part, I knew my father well enough to know this wasn't a mistake. My dad was meticulous about money. If the account was empty, it wasn't by accident. My breath caught in my throat as a horrible thought crept in. If the money wasn't here, then where had it gone? I closed my laptop with trembling hands, whispering into the silence of my room, "Where did it all go?" The first crack in the perfect image of her father begins to form. I stared at my laptop long after the screen went black, my mind spinning. The tuition deposit deadline wasn't just looming, it was practically breathing down my neck. 1 week. That's all I had to come up with the money, or lose my spot at the graduate program I'd worked for years to get into. For the first few hours, I clung desperately to denial. Maybe it was some kind of banking error. Maybe the account number had changed, or there was a glitch in the system. Maybe, just maybe, there was a perfectly reasonable explanation. I checked the balance again. Still $4.83, my stomach dropped like a stone. "Okay, don't panic," I whispered to myself, pacing my room. Dad probably just moved the money somewhere else for safekeeping. There has to be an explanation. The words sounded hollow, even to me. I decided to talk to my mom first. If anyone could help me make sense of this, it would be her. I found her in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup. My mother, Diane Turner, was the kind of woman who lived in quiet corners of the house. She had this nervous energy about her, like she was always bracing for something to go wrong. "Mom," I said carefully, leaning against the counter, "can I ask you something about the college fund?" She froze, the wooden spoon hovering midair. "The fund? What about it?" I took a deep breath, my voice trembling. "I logged in today to pay my graduate school deposit, and there's nothing there. Like literally nothing. Just $4.83. Her spoon clattered into the sink. "What?" she whispered, turning toward me with wide eyes. That's impossible, she said quickly, almost too quickly. Your father's been saving for years. He showed you those updates. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. Mom, I never saw the actual account. I just saw the printouts he gave me. Did you ever see it? For a moment, she didn't answer. Then slowly she said, No, your father always handled it. He said it was easier that way. Her words were like a cold gust of wind. Wait, so you've just been taking his word for it this whole time? Diane swallowed hard and glanced away, wringing her hands. Your father has always been private about finances, but he's never given me a reason not to trust him. The way she said it, hesitant, almost defensive, sent a chill down my spine. It sounded less like confidence and more like fear. Mom, I pressed gently, has Dad ever lied about money before? Or anything big? Her lips parted like she was about to say something, but then she shook her head, retreating into silence. No, she said firmly, too firmly. I'm sure there's a simple explanation. Just talk to him, Savannah. He'll clear it up. The unease in her eyes told me she didn't believe her own words. I stepped outside and dialed my dad's number, my pulse pounding. The phone rang twice before he picked up. Savannah, hey! His voice was upbeat, almost too upbeat. How's my girl? Dad, we need to talk, I said, skipping the pleasantries. I just logged into the college fund account and there's nothing there. It's empty. What happened? There was a brief pause, just long enough to make my heart race. Then he said casually, Oh, that. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. I'll handle it. Handle it? My hands clenched into fists. Dad, you don't understand. My deposit is due in a week. I need to know what's going on. Savannah, he said sharply, like a teacher scolding a child. This isn't something you need to stress over. Just focus on your schoolwork, okay? I'll take care of it. No, I snapped, my voice rising. You promised me that money was for my education. Where is it? There was another pause, heavier this time. Then, out of nowhere, he changed the subject. Have you eaten dinner yet? You really shouldn't skip meals when you're stressed. I blinked, stunned. Dad, are you kidding me? Did you just… But then I froze, because I heard something faint in the background of the call. Children's laughter. High-pitched and playful, like a boy giggling. My father didn't have any friends with young kids. There shouldn't have been children anywhere near him. I opened my mouth to ask about it, but he spoke over me. Listen, Savannah, I'm about to head into a meeting. We'll talk later, all right? Before I could protest, the line went dead. I stood there on the porch, my phone still pressed to my ear, my mind reeling. Why had he been so calm about the missing money? Why had he avoided answering my questions? And who were those children I'd heard in the background? A sinking feeling took root in my chest. This wasn't just about a missing college fund. This was about something much, much bigger. I clenched my jaw, staring out into the dark street, and made a silent promise to myself. If Dad won't give me answers, I'll find them myself. Savannah takes her first step toward uncovering a truth that will shatter her family forever. The call with my dad replayed in my head on a loop all night. His calm tone, the way he changed the subject so abruptly, the children's laughter in the background, it all felt wrong. By morning, my panic had hardened into determination. If he wouldn't tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. But I had to be careful. My dad was meticulous, especially when it came to money. He'd never just leave evidence lying around, or so I thought. I started small, combing through our family's filing cabinet in the study. Tax forms, old report cards, stacks of bills, all neatly labeled and perfectly organized. I flipped through each folder, searching for any mention of the college fund account. Nothing, not even a single piece of paper with the account number on it. My heart sank. Did he hide everything digitally? Password-protected files? If so, this was going to be harder than I'd thought. Next, I checked my mom's desk. She wasn't the type to snoop, but maybe she had a copy of something, anything, that could give me a lead. I found nothing but grocery lists, recipes, and half-finished crossword puzzles. Frustration bubbled inside me like a shaken soda bottle. It felt like my father had scrubbed every trace of the fund from our lives. Was this all part of the plan from the beginning? That thought chilled me. I almost gave up. Almost. Then, as I was leaving my dad's home office, my foot caught on something under the desk. An old leather briefcase. It was heavy and dusty, clearly not used often. The zipper stuck for a moment before sliding open with a low rasp. Inside were random scraps of paper. Receipts, business cards, loose notes. I sifted through them quickly, my heart pounding, and then I saw it. A folded hotel receipt. I smoothed it out on the desk, my eyes scanning the details. Hotel. Name, The Palms Inn and Suites. Location, Asheville, North Carolina room. Type, family suite. Guest name, Ethan Turner. I froze. My father's name is Charles Turner. Who the hell was Ethan Turner? My pulse hammered in my ears. It could be a coincidence. A distant cousin. Some random stranger. But deep down I knew better. A family suite? Why would my dad need a family suite when he always traveled alone for business? I sat back in the chair, the receipt trembling in my hands, and began to piece things together. Asheville. That city sounded familiar. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through my dad's old text messages. The ones he'd sent to me and Mom over the years about his business trips. There it was. Again and again. Heading to Asheville for the weekend? Don't wait up. The dates lined up perfectly with the receipt. Every few months. Same hotel. Same city. He'd been going there for years. Memories slammed into me like a tidal wave. My 9th birthday. He'd missed the party, claiming he had to work late. Christmas 2 years ago. He left halfway through dinner, saying there was an emergency at the office, even last Thanksgiving. He arrived late, disheveled, and swore he'd been stuck in traffic. But what if it wasn't traffic? What if he hadn't been at work at all? What if he'd been with them, whoever they were? I stared down at the name on the receipt again. Ethan Turner. The letters blurred as tears welled in my eyes. Who are you? I whispered, but deep down I already feared the answer. A second family? A half-brother? A life my father had been living right under our noses. I tucked the receipt into my pocket, my hands trembling. One thing was certain now. This wasn't just about the missing college fund. This was about a secret so big it could destroy everything I thought I knew about my family. As I slipped out of the office and closed the door behind me, my heart hammered with a single, terrifying question. Who is Ethan Turner? Sleep was impossible. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the hotel receipt burning a hole in my mind. Asheville. Family suite. Ethan Turner. I couldn't stop hearing that faint laughter from the phone call, those happy, innocent giggles. The sound had been so natural, so comfortable, like my dad had been right at home there. By dawn, I knew I couldn't sit around waiting for answers to magically appear. If Dad was hiding something in Asheville, I'd find it. I grabbed my laptop and typed Asheville Family Hotel Vacation into the search bar. The hotel popped up immediately, the Palms Inn and Suites. Its glossy photos matched the receipt perfectly, but a receipt wasn't proof of anything. I needed more. I switched to social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. The city wasn't big, but it was bustling, and people loved to post their vacations. I typed in hashtags, Asheville family trip. Hundreds of photos popped up, smiling families at waterfalls, crowded diners, quirky roadside attractions. And then I saw it, a photo that made my heart stop. It was my father. He wasn't in a suit or looking rushed like he always did when he came home late from work. No, here he looked relaxed, happy even. His arm wrapped tightly around a woman I'd never seen before. A tall brunette with soft, kind features. On the other side of him was a little boy, maybe 6 or 7, grinning wide, both hands clutching my father's like he never wanted to let go. The caption under the photo read, "Best family vacation ever. Der Asheville, maar family time." The account belonged to someone named Rebecca Lane, but the photo wasn't posted by her. It was tagged by a friend. The blood drained from my face. I zoomed in on my father's smile, the way he held that little boy with such tenderness. I had never seen him look at me that way. My stomach churned violently. This wasn't about a missing college fund anymore. This was about a life I didn't know he had. A life where I didn't exist. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone as I stumbled into the kitchen, where my mom, Diane, was making coffee. "Mom," I croaked, my throat tight. "You need to see this." She turned, confused, then froze when I shoved the screen toward her. Her face went pale. The mug slipped from her hands and shattered on the tile, coffee splattering everywhere. "Oh, my God," she whispered, clutching the counter for balance. I watched as her chest rose and fell rapidly, her eyes glistening. "You knew, didn't you?" I accused, my voice cracking. Diane shook her head fiercely. "No, Savannah, no. I suspected, but I never had proof. Your father, he's always been so secretive. The late nights, the trips. I told myself I was being paranoid. Paranoid? My voice turned sharp. Mom, he's standing there like a proud husband and loving father while we've been here. What? His second choice? Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't want to believe it. I thought if I just stayed quiet, if I didn't push, maybe it wouldn't be true. Her words sliced through me like knives. You let him lie to both of us, I said bitterly. She flinched but didn't argue. Instead, she grabbed my wrist desperately. Savannah, listen to me. Do not confront him yet. You don't know what he's capable of when cornered. If this comes out the wrong way, our entire family could implode. We could lose everything. I ripped my hand free. We've already lost everything. As she sobbed quietly, I turned my phone back to the photo, my vision blurring through angry tears. That little boy, Ethan. I zoomed in on his face. His eyes were wide and bright. His smile was lopsided in the exact same way mine had been in childhood photos. My breath caught. He didn't just resemble me. He looked like he could be me. The truth slammed into me so hard I staggered backward. My father hadn't just stolen my college fund. He'd been building a whole other family, and that little boy was my half-brother. I closed my eyes and whispered. I wasn't just fighting for my future anymore. I was fighting to understand who my father really was. And in that moment, I knew this was only the beginning. Savannah's mission shifts from financial desperation to uncovering her father's double life, no matter how dark the truth becomes. The ping of my email notification jolted me awake before sunrise. I rubbed my eyes, still groggy, and opened my laptop. There it was, an email from my graduate program admissions office. Bold and unforgiving in the subject line. Final notice. Tuition deposit due in 5 days, 5 days. That was all the time I had left to secure my place at the school I'd been working toward since my freshman year of undergrad. If I didn't pay, my dream of becoming an environmental lawyer, the very future my dad had promised me, would evaporate. I clutched my head in my hands, my stomach twisting into painful knots. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about everything he'd taken from me, my future, my trust, even my sense of who I was. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I called him before I could talk myself out of it. My thumb hovered over the screen as the phone rang once, twice, then clicked. Savannah, my father answered smoothly, his voice warm and familiar as though nothing was wrong. The sound of it almost broke me. Dad, I said sharply, my voice trembling. I need to know what happened to the college fund. Now. I just got the final notice for my deposit. It's due in 5 days. There was a long pause. Then he sighed heavily, the kind of sigh that made me feel like I was the problem. Savannah, you don't understand the pressures I'm under, he said, his tone soft and wounded. I've carried this family on my back for years, paid the bills, put food on the table, made sure you had every opportunity. Do you have any idea how exhausting that is? My mouth fell open. Dad, you promised me that money was for school. You said it was untouchable. I did what I had to do for this family, he snapped, his voice hardening. You've been so ungrateful lately. I'm breaking myself to give you a good life, and all you can do is accuse me. My chest heaved, fury rising like wildfire. Ungrateful? You stole my future, Dad. You lied to us. I didn't lie, he interrupted coldly. I protected you. Sometimes, Savannah, the truth is more complicated than you realize. You're young. You don't see the bigger picture. The condescension in his voice made my hands shake. I'm not a child, I hissed. Stop talking to me like I don't know what's going on. I heard those kids in the background last time we spoke. I saw the photo, Dad. Rebecca, Ethan. Do those names ring a bell? Dead silence. For a moment, I thought he'd hung up. Then he said low and dangerous. You don't know what you're talking about, and I suggest you stop before you hurt this family even more. Click. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my breath ragged, my pulse thundering in my ears. He wasn't just lying now, he was gaslighting me, trying to twist everything, to make me doubt myself, to make me feel like the villain in his story. But this time, I wouldn't let him control the narrative. If he wouldn't come clean, I'd drag the truth into the light myself. That night, I sat on my bed with my laptop open, Rebecca Lane's tagged photo still glaring at me from the screen. The boy, Ethan, smiled back at me, completely unaware of the storm swirling around him. I traced his little face with my fingertip, my throat tightening. He didn't ask for this. None of us did. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to wait for my dad to decide when or how this would all come out. I would go to Asheville myself. I would look Rebecca in the eye, and I would see my father's other life with my own 2 eyes. No more guessing. No more lies. I opened my closet and grabbed my overnight bag, tossing in clothes, my wallet, and the crumpled hotel receipt that had started this whole nightmare. As I zipped it shut, I glanced at the framed photo of me and Dad on my dresser, taken on my high school graduation day. We were both smiling, our arms around each other, like a real family. I picked up the photo, my hand trembling. "You don't get to hide anymore," I whispered. Then I set it face down and walked out, ready to face whatever truth waited for me on the road ahead. Savannah leaves for Asheville, determined to uncover her father's secrets, no matter how painful they turn out to be. The drive to Asheville felt endless. Every mile marker I passed only added fuel to the wildfire of anger burning inside me. By the time I pulled into the quiet suburban neighborhood, my hands were cramped from gripping the steering wheel so tightly. The houses here were picturesque. White picket fences, manicured lawns, bicycles tossed carelessly in driveways. It looked like the kind of place where families thrived, the kind of place where my father had been living his secret life. I parked a few houses down and just sat there, staring at the address from the hotel receipt. My chest heaved as I tried to steady my breathing. What if I was wrong? What if there was some innocent explanation? But deep down I knew. The photo, the laughter, the lies I wasn't wrong. I just wasn't ready for how right I was about to be. I walked up the driveway, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The house was charming, with a swing set in the backyard and potted flowers by the front steps. I rang the doorbell. A moment later, the door swung open to reveal a woman with warm brown eyes and dark hair pulled into a messy bun. She smiled politely at first, then tilted her head in confusion. "Yes, can I help you?" Her voice matched the one I'd heard in the background of my father's calls. There was no doubt this was Rebecca Lane. "Are you Rebecca?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Yes," she said slowly. "Who's asking?" I swallowed hard, gripping my bag strap for strength. "My name is Savannah Turner. I think you know my father." Rebecca's polite smile faltered. "Your father?" "I'm sorry, I don't— Charles Turner," I blurted out, the name tasting like poison on my tongue. Her face went pale. For a split second, her lips parted as if to deny it. Then her brows knitted together. "I think you must be mistaken," she said carefully. "My partner's name is Charles, yes, but he doesn't—" Behind her, a child's voice rang out joyfully. "Mommy, Daddy's home!" And then he appeared. My father walked into the foyer carrying a small boy, Ethan. He was laughing, his little arms wrapped around Charles's neck. For one heartbeat, the world went silent. Charles looked up, saw me standing there, and froze. The color drained from his face. It was the first time I'd ever seen him truly speechless. "Savannah," he rasped, like my name was a curse. I stepped forward, my voice shaking with fury. "Hi, Dad." Ethan peeked over his shoulder at me, his wide eyes full of innocent curiosity. "Daddy, who's that?" Charles didn't answer. Neither did I. The silence was deafening. Rebecca turned slowly to him, her face twisting in confusion. "Charles, what's going on here?" When he didn't respond, she looked back at me. "Who are you?" I clenched my fists, my entire body trembling. "I'm his daughter." The room seemed to spin as Rebecca's mouth fell open. "That's impossible," she whispered, shaking her head. He told me he wasn't married. He told you a lot of things, didn't he?" I spat. "Just like he told me there was a college fund for my future. Just like he told my mom he was working late all those nights he was actually here with you." Rebecca's face crumpled as the truth began to sink in. "No," she said, stumbling backward. "No, this can't be real." "Oh, it's real." My voice cracked under the weight of everything I'd lost. "You stole my future to fund theirs," I shouted, pointing at my father, my tears finally breaking free. "Every dollar that was supposed to send me to school went to your pretty little vacation photos and matching Christmas pajamas." Rebecca gasped and turned to Charles, her voice sharp and trembling. "Is this true?" "Charles, tell me she's lying." Charles set Ethan down carefully and reached for Rebecca's hand, his voice slick with desperation. "Becca, listen to me. I was protecting everyone. I didn't want to hurt you." "Hurt me?" Rebecca's voice rose to a scream. "You've been lying to me for years. How long has this been going on?" Ethan, confused by the shouting, tugged on his father's sleeve. "Daddy, why is she so mad?" he asked softly, pointing at me. The question pierced my heart like a blade. For a moment, my rage faltered. This wasn't his fault. He was just a little boy caught in the middle of a storm he couldn't possibly understand. I crouched slightly, meeting Ethan's innocent gaze. "It's not you, sweetheart," I said gently, tears streaking my face. "You didn't do anything wrong." But before I could say more, Rebecca's sobs turned to fury. She shoved Charles away, her face red and tear-streaked. "How dare you do this to us?" she screamed. "Do you have any idea what you've done to our family?" Charles's mask of calm cracked, rage flashing across his features. "This isn't your business, Savannah," he snarled, lunging toward me. He grabbed my arm so hard I winced. "You don't get to destroy my family," he growled through clenched teeth. His grip bruising, I stared at him, breathless, as the man who'd once been my hero transformed into a stranger before my eyes. Savannah is physically trapped, emotionally torn, and moments away from either breaking free or being silenced forever. For a split second, the room seemed to freeze. The sound of my ragged breathing, Rebecca's muffled sobs, and Ethan's confused sniffles blending into a horrible, suffocating silence. And then, like a spark to gasoline, everything exploded. "Let me go!" I screamed, jerking my arm back with all the strength I had. Adrenaline surged through me, fueled by years of lies and manipulation. Charles stumbled backward, shocked that I'd fought back. "I am done with you," I spat, my voice shaking but loud enough to rattle the picture frames on the walls. "No more lies. No more guilt trips. No more pretending you're anything other than a coward." His eyes widened in fury. "Savannah, you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly." I cut him off, tears burning down my cheeks. "You stole my future to build a fantasy life here. You could have been honest, Dad. You could have told us the truth. But you didn't, because you liked playing the hero while you played us like fools." Rebecca gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "You told me you were single," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You told me you were a widower, that Ethan would never know what it's like to have a family like other kids." Charles spun toward her, desperation clawing at his face. "Becca, please, I did it for you, both of you. You and Ethan are my family." Rebecca's tears turned to rage. "Family?" she shouted, her voice breaking. "You don't get to say that word after what you've done." She grabbed Ethan protectively, pulling him close. "Get out, Charles. Now." Charles's mask of control shattered like glass. He swung wildly between anger and pleading. No, you can't just kick me out like this. This is my home too. My son." "Your son," Rebecca hissed, "deserves better than a lying, two-faced cheat." Her voice cracked, but she stood tall, clutching Ethan like a shield. "You've destroyed enough lives. You don't get to destroy his." Charles's gaze darted between us like a trapped animal. For a moment, I almost expected him to crumble, to apologize, to finally see what he'd done. Instead, his face hardened. "This is your fault," he snarled at me, spittle flying. "You poisoned her against me. You've always been ungrateful. Always. Stop blaming everyone else," I screamed, my voice echoing through the house. "This isn't about me or Mom or Rebecca. You did this, Dad, and now you get to live with it." Rebecca pointed at the door, trembling but firm. "Leave now or I'll call the police." For a second, I thought he might fight back. But then, something broke in him, shoulders sagging, eyes deadened. Without another word, he grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. The silence he left behind felt heavier than his presence ever had. Rebecca sank to the floor, clutching Ethan tightly. He was crying now, his little face pressed into her shoulder. My heart twisted painfully. This wasn't just my tragedy, it was theirs too. A whole other life my father had built on lies, now crumbling into dust. Rebecca looked up at me, eyes red and glassy. "Thank you," she whispered, voice breaking, "for telling me the truth, for giving me the courage to see him for who he really is." I nodded, but my throat was too tight to speak. Ethan peeked up at me, confused and tear-streaked. I crouched beside him, brushing his hair gently from his face. "I'm so sorry, buddy," I whispered. "This isn't your fault. None of this is." His small hand clutched mine for just a second before Rebecca hugged him close again. I stood, my chest heavy. "I have to go," I said softly. Rebecca started to protest, but I shook my head. "This is your home, your space. You need time to heal." She nodded silently, tears streaming down her cheeks. As I reached the door, I turned for one last look at Ethan's innocent face. at Rebecca's quiet strength, at the broken pieces my father had left behind. "Take care of each other," I said, my voice barely audible. Then I walked out, closing the door gently behind me. The evening air hit me like a slap. I stood on the porch, breathing deeply, my hands trembling. For the first time, there was no more mystery, no more wondering. The truth was laid bare, ugly and raw. I didn't know how I'd pay for graduate school. I didn't know how Mom would cope when I told her the full story. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I would never depend on Charles again. Not for money, not for love, not for anything. As I walked down the driveway toward my car, I whispered to myself, "This is the end of his lies. And the beginning of my life." Savannah drives away into the unknown, free for the first time. But with a long, uncertain road ahead, the drive home felt like a blur. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they ached, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. Back in that living room, with Rebecca's tear-streaked face and Ethan's trembling voice echoing in my ears. By the time I pulled into Mom's driveway, the sun was rising, painting the sky in muted pinks and oranges. It felt almost cruel that the world could look so beautiful when mine was still cracked wide open. The next few days were a whirlwind of decisions and deadlines. I still had 5 days to pay my deposit or lose my place at my dream school forever. My checking account balance mocked me every time I looked at it. Even with every penny I'd saved from part-time jobs, I was thousands short. The college fund that had been promised to me since childhood, my safety net, my future, was gone. But for the first time, instead of crumbling, I pushed forward. I swallowed my pride and went to the bank to apply for a loan. The interest rate was brutal, and I knew it would mean years of debt, but it was a path forward. I also picked up extra shifts at the local coffee shop, barely sleeping as I hustled to scrape together what I could. Mom, Diane, was my anchor through it all. When I told her the full truth about Charles, she didn't cry the way I expected. She didn't collapse or scream. She just went very still, and then, like a storm building strength, she acted. 2 days later, she filed for divorce. "I should have done this years ago," she said, her voice steady, her hands trembling slightly. "I won't let him hurt us anymore." The night before my deposit was due, I sat alone on my bed, staring at the pile of receipts and forms scattered across my comforter. I felt lighter, not because the pain was gone. It wasn't. But because I had faced the truth and survived it, I thought about the little girl I used to be, the one who believed her. Father's bedtime stories about the magical college fund growing just for her, the one who looked at him like he hung the moon. That girl was gone. In her place stood a woman who had learned that love isn't measured in promises or dollar signs. Dad built a life on lies, I whispered to myself, my chest tightening. But I'm going to build mine on truth. I pressed the final button on my laptop, paying the deposit with a mix of savings, loans, and sheer determination. When the confirmation email pinged, I smiled through my tears. I had done this on my own. A year later, the campus buzzed with energy as students hurried to their first classes of the semester. I walked across the quad, my backpack slung over my shoulder, breathing in the crisp autumn air. My life wasn't perfect. I was working 2 jobs, still paying off loans, and sometimes the weight of it all felt unbearable. But every step I took was mine alone. Earned, not given. As I climbed the steps to my first graduate seminar, I thought of Mom, now thriving on her own. I thought of Rebecca and Ethan, somewhere out there trying to piece together their lives. And yes, I even thought of Charles. Not with love, not with hate, but with a quiet, detached acceptance. His choices no longer defined me. In my mind, my own voice echoed like a promise. My father built a life on lies. I'm building mine on truth. I reached the classroom door, my heart racing. I didn't know exactly what the future held, but for the first time, that uncertainty felt exciting, not terrifying. With a deep breath, I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. And just like that, my story wasn't about him anymore. It was about me.